So it is the end of the year, holidays are coming up, and among this wall of goodies, there's one particular special goodie that I'm super excited to check out. This one right here. Oh yeah, it's the new Define R6 from Fractal. Wow, this thing really brings back some memories. Not much has changed, but only refined. Thus, the Define. Here comes the peel. So it has been a while since the last generation of Define series. I'm super excited to see what the R6 has to offer. Let's check it out. The new Master Liquid all-in-one coolers are available in 120 and 240mm stylish radiator sizes, with air balance fans included for best airflow and RGB sync on the pump and the fans that are controlled via this hub or through your motherboard. Check out the ML120L and 240L down below. Alright guys, I am not going to spoil any surprises that you will see later in the video, but I have a feeling a lot of people are going to love the Define R6 because it's a combination of basically everything users have been asking for in 2017, and Fractal have clearly been listening. So you're looking at the mid-tower format, available in 4 colors, priced at the same $129, which is awesome, with a TG edition at a $20 premium. Now I kind of appreciate Fractal's approach to avoiding risk. You know, there's no RGB, and there's no single exterior logo because the case doesn't really need it. You know, it looks like any other Define case with a staple aluminum front plate and the side ventilation, wide bladed fans unless you get the blackout edition, and as with any other Define case, the R6 feels awesome from a quality perspective, and it also feels fresh. For example, notice the tempered glass side panel and the lack of the side thumb screws for the mount that is present on like 99% of cases with TG. Instead, the thumb screws are located at the rear out of sight, and the glass is mounted on basically this metal interior frame that also has 2 pegs for this 2-step mounting procedure, creating this toolless mount that is super convenient and looks better without the thumb screws sticking out from the side. They also get more fresh points for the inclusion of a removable 5¼ drive bay, because a lot of people still find use for an optical drive. The door can be swapped to open from either side, and it opens just to 90 degrees. There's a fine dust filter with angled vents that I'm not sure is either for airflow or noise purposes, and it covers dual 140mm fans, plus there's a third 140mm exhaust fan at the rear for a nice out-of-the-box cooling. The I/O is basic with audio, power reset, and 4 USB ports that are fully black with dark illumination on the power button and the middle crack. Now you might question the lack of a Type-C port, but they are selling this optional $30 I/O panel that includes one because based on their market research, people want it by default, but they don't want to pay for it more. Now $30 to get your Type-C port is pricey considering the price of the case, and I wish Fractal offered some sort of a rebate program. Let's say if you returned the stock I/O, because what are you going to do with it otherwise? Coming to the top, we have a new form of a Mod event that spans the entire ceiling and has a built-in dust filter. A nice chunky button releases the panel, and the entire mechanism and the springs feel robust. And with this top panel, you have 2 options, either fully closed or fully open without another fine dust filter with angular ventilation. It's a fantastic route for either airflow or silence, but detaching the metal cover from the dust filter is a complete pain that I could only detach with my knife, and I wish the 2 pieces were not so tight together. Also, the angular filter adds a different character to the case. Now it looks more industrial, but unfortunately it doesn't match up to the front side ventilation, and also the gap between the filter and the frame is quite large, and you can actually see through inside, and that's a glaring oversight. As for the fan bracket, they are one of the best in the business for water cooling support, so we've got flexible rails for the entire length of the bracket. There's even a fill port cut out for your convenience. The bracket is super sturdy and can easily hold the weight of the case, and my only complaint are these tiny screws that need to be removed to get the panel out. A 360 rad is not a problem here. You even have 2 mounting positions for 120mm fans, either closer to the side panel or to the motherboard. A 280 rad can fit bracket too that you can slide along the bracket, and triple 140mm fans have enough clearance. But be cautious when reinstalling the fan bracket and the top panel, as the mounting holes are close together, so insert them into their appropriate levels. Okay, so now for the interior. At first glance, it looks odd with so much room occupied with that large panel, but it's all here for a reason. First, I like the pre-installed motherboard standoffs with the middle one to catch the board. The power supply shroud is the perfect height. It's fully perforated with two large cutouts below the motherboard with dual SSD mounts, only one of which is appropriately placed for clean wiring that I think might be by design, because the left SSD is in the exact spot where you could mount this PCI riser cable for a vertical GPU mount. Now, it is a $40 accessory, and I had trouble mounting the GPU into the frame because the alignment wasn't exactly perfect with the riser card, but spacing is enough for other PCI devices on your motherboard to clear, and there's also a little bit of room between the glass panel for the GPU to breathe. And by the way, check out our video on why not to use vertical GPUs right over here. So behind this large front panel is our storage facility with white metal drive caddies that are SSD ready. I love this approach because it's completely modular, so the 6 larger trays can be moved around, and because they're so slim, you can stack 3 of them right at the bottom for SSD mounts and not use that much vertical space. And we have 4 centimeters of clearance from the front fans, so a radiator will fit without causing issues with these caddies. And I love that there's a fan hub here for 9 fans. It is SATA powered and controlled via PWM connector on your motherboard. A nice, simple and effective combination for proper fan control. Now, this whole front section reminds me of the H440 approach from NZXT with that similar closed off front part, but check this out. The front plate that hides the main frame can be moved all the way back to open up this front section, and you have to remove the fans and the top bay, but a few screws later and we have a more familiar open interior frame. This is mainly targeted for water cooling now that we have 17 centimeters of clearance for push-pull or thicker radiators from that front panel. Or you can use that open space to mount radiator on the floor. A 240 rad will fit no problem, but be cautious about power supply clearance. And now it makes sense why we have such a large dust filter removable from the front. The 5¼ bay can still be mounted with this configuration, and the only compromise is storage, as now you can only get dual 3.5-inch drives behind that panel. Overall, I really like this flexibility on the R6 to open it up, but unless you're mounting water cooling hardware, I really like the panel up front to make the interior more intimate. And this is where I ran into my first clearance issue trying to mount a 360 rad up top. So it turns out the side panel interferes with the closest mounting strip, so in this configuration you can only mount a 240 rad up top. So I decided to relocate one of my front fans for top exhaust and get that 360 rad nicely hidden at the front. There is no interference with the larger caddies, so I can mount more hard drives, and all of my fans are routed into the hub at the back for easy fan control that then I route into my motherboard. Cables are easily cleaned up on both sides with lots of room beside the power supply, and general routing behind the motherboard tray is fine with built-in Velcro straps and cable tie points in good locations. Once the side panel is mounted back, you have nice showcase of your components without revealing that hard drive area. Now you might say, what's the point of glass panel then if so much of the interior is covered? But I would say reflections are nice, and the lack of that intense interior lighting makes it look more elegant. And finally, I wanted to see if the front panel would choke the fans in a 30-minute stress test, seeing that's been like the pattern for cases in this year. And having the panel open, the difference in CPU temperatures at load was only 3 degrees Celsius with slightly lower RPM, so nicely done on the front ventilation design. Experience every pixel with the GeForce GTX 1080 Ti and enjoy these awesome new games in full 4K resolution at over 60 frames per second, and get Destiny 2 for free for a limited time. Full details in the description below. And so the Definer 6 is like the perfect 2-in-1 enclosure. You can either go heavy on storage yet still have room for front and top radiators, or go with a full custom loop with more room to play around with but less storage. And more importantly, it's not compromising any of their existing cases like the more compact Mesh FIC. They all have sort of their roles to play within the case market without sort of approaching on their own turfs. I love the direction that the R6 is taking, and it deserves our damn good award. So guys, let me know if you share the same thinking of this thing feeling fresh. Even though it's a Define series case, it looks the same to all the other Define series. I just loved all the, incremental revisions that they've added that makes this case really stand out from 2017. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and watch this other relevant content. And we'll see you in the next video.